A very good evening for everyone present over here. I am Anirudh and I'll be your host for today's evening. Youth is the pollen that blows through the sky and does not ask why. The history of the nation has been shaped by the youth of the nation, and here we are presenting to you all proudly our panel for today, the Young Disruptors panel. We have three eminent speakers today, and I will be introducing it to you all one by one. The first speaker for the evening is the author of The Flying Blind India's Quest for Global Leadership, a foreign affairs columnist, Mr. Mohamed Zeeshan. Currently a staff writer for The Diplomat, he also hosts a monthly Sunday column in the Deccan Herald. With his previous experiences with the Indian delegation to the United Nations in New York and with Kearney, this young disruptor has advised the governments across the Middle East on economic and political moderation. A very pleasant evening to you, sir. It's nice to meet you. Sir. We would like to hear about the experience as a young disruptor, how you've been able to achieve what you have in this field that you have. Over to you.
Thank you, Anirudh, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. I must say that I never thought that a fest or a conclave of this kind can ever go fully online and be so efficient. But you guys are doing it, and this is pretty incredible. I'm very honored and grateful to be here today, along with some extremely illustrious young people. I must say that at 27, I already feel somewhat old. I'm already in the older half of the Indian population. That isn't so much to say whether I'm young or old, but more to say that India is an extraordinarily young country. The median age in India is about 26 years. So that means that half of India is younger than 26 and half of India is older than 26. Which is rather incredible when you think about it. When I first went into writing on international politics and on Indian politics as well, on foreign policy and foreign affairs and so on, I got into it when I was in my late teens and early 20s. So I was still in engineering college, like a lot of you today. And nobody really understood why I was doing this. Editors certainly were not very interested in what I had to say. And so for the first 2 or 3 or 4 years of my writing, I was essentially writing for my own pleasure and for my own self. And I started out as a blogger with a Blogspot account. I think it's now called Blogger. At that point in time, it was called Blogspot, with a very meager audience starting out. But as I went along, I found that more and more people were interested in what I had to say, including decision makers sitting in Delhi and around the world. It took a while for me to establish myself as a writer in the mainstream media. Now, I felt strongly enough at the time that I must write about these things, because I thought that in a country as incredibly young as India, it makes no sense that our political discourse and our policy discourse is so heavily monopolized and dominated by the old, as wise as they are. We must admit that regardless of the fact that India is a young country, India is also a country that has changed and transformed very quickly in the last few decades on all parameters: social, economic, technological, political, and so on. And so to keep the youth out of our policy and political discourse, even at that point in time, to me seemed quite strange. And so I thought that even if no editor wants to publish my writing, let me at least write for the few people who are interested in reading me at the time. I sometimes joke when I talk about this old and young divide. We all know that our parents and grandparents quite often struggle with the new technology that's coming out, the gadgets that are coming out every day and every year. But the fact of the matter is that with the way the technology is evolving, our generation is going to be more quickly outdated than their generation seems to be today, at least technologically and technically. I think by the time we move into our 30s, 40s, and 50s, the world would have changed a whole lot quicker than what we are seeing today. and the changes would be much more marked than the changes that have taken place in the last 2 or 3 decades. So it is all the more important, I think, that with time, as time passes by, countries like India bring in more youth into our policy and political discourse. Foreign affairs and foreign policy and international affairs are certainly a very, very important place, I think, for young people like ourselves to get involved. Notwithstanding the fact that what happens in foreign policy today is going to impact the lives of Indians and others around the world years from now. And therefore, the young generation must automatically take an interest in what's going on. I think that it's also very pertinent to students and young working professionals going out into the world today that India has a globally involved and proactive foreign policy. And as I write in my book, Flying Blind, I talk about the fact that India's weak passport or weak ranking on the passport index means that Indians are able to travel less freely and work in fewer countries without a visa as compared to people who come from countries like Germany or the US or even Brazil and China and other developing countries like that. So there are several reasons why I think that the youth should, in India need to see a stake in foreign affairs and foreign policy and international politics and start writing and thinking about it. Of course, beyond that in itself, I think that the fact that India is a fast-changing economy and a fast-changing country means that we need to also infuse fresh ideas and new ways of thinking into our setup and our discourse in public and in the media. And the only people who are best suited to do this, in my view, are the youth, because it is the youth who come without the baggage of the past. We're able to think freely, we're able to write in a freewheeling style, we're able to be creative and imaginative because we know no fear, because we don't have the experience of much of the past pain and the ghosts of history, as I say, that India has had to endure over the years. And therefore, even more strongly, I think that the youth need to become more involved in our political and policy discourse as time goes by. With that, I would like to end my opening remarks. Thank you very much for having me. And I'm very happy to be part of a youth conclave. And I'm most honored to be speaking alongside the very illustrious young voices that we are now going to hear from. Thank you very much.
Very well said, sir. I especially asking the youth to be very proactive in today's policies and everything. As you said, people should be more vocal. Only then will knowledge spread. As a step to start for the youth, especially with social media being at its peak in this lockdown, everybody having that option in their hand always. What do you think can be a starting step, if not going for an international policy based? So what? How can they at least make it for their a state-wise? Now the state assembly election is coming up in Tamil Nadu and other states. And how do you think they can voice their opinions as a starting step, if not for an international global market? Of what can they do?
I mean, it doesn't even have to be the state level. You can start thinking about your neighborhood to start with. You can start thinking about your public housing complex or the apartment that you live in to start with. But what I think is very important to know is that, past generations and the youth in past generations were not as strongly empowered as the youth of today in India. And the very simple reason, as you pointed out, is social media. If I was born 50 years ago, I don't think I would be sitting here in front of you today as a published author, because I started out on the internet and with social media, all of which was free. There was nobody who stopped me from starting my own blog on the internet and writing about whatever I wanted to write about. There was no editor to check me on what I should say or shouldn't say. And so I was able to freely, speak my mind and experiment with my own ideas and put them out there. And as it happened, a few people found them interesting. They found them fresh and provocative. And so then they gave me a bigger and bigger platform as I went along. So we need to start somewhere, and we've got the tools and implements to do it. The starting point for me certainly is to start thinking about the problems around us. We need to observe what's happening in the world around us. I'm not saying we need to look at what's happening outside the country immediately. Of course, that's wonderful if we start doing that. But to start with, look at what's happening on your street. Look at the homeless on your street. Think about the lives and livelihoods of the domestic maids who come and work in your apartments. Think about the cab drivers that you go to college with every day or go to work with every day. And think about the struggles and difficulties that they face in their daily lives, and think about how that can be made better, through collective action, through policy, and through government. And that's where it starts. And then thereafter, of course, we raise awareness, we talk to other people, we discuss with other people. As we all know now with the internet, all of this is very, very easy. Despite a pandemic happening, I'm able to sit here in Bangalore and speak to you people spread out across around the world, and take questions and thoughts from you as well, which is just quite simply remarkable and magical, and would have been unthinkable even 20 years ago. So we've got the implements, we've got the tools and instruments to do all of these things. All we really need to start doing is to start thinking freely, and to take action and be bold in what we want to achieve.
Brilliant, sir. We'll join you right back after we meet the remaining panelists of today. So the next speaker joining us is Mr. Vicky Roy, a photographer par excellence. His life in this field of photography started when he lifted the camera at the age of 18, after which his career knew no limits. He had his first solo exhibition, The Street Dream, in the year of 2007. Then his first monograph, Home Street Home, published by the Nazar Foundation. He was awarded MIT Media Fellowship in the year of 2014 and was part of the Forbes Asia Under 30 list in the year of 2016. We are more than honored to have you all among us, sir, and we would love to know more than this about you and know your story.
Thank you so much, Anirudh, and thank you so much for your team doing these sessions during the lockdown. So it's really happy to part of this initiative. So whenever we talk about any photograph, so always we talk, every picture there is some story. So here today I am not showing my photographs, but photographer have also a story. So we will hear today photographer story. So I just go through my childhood. So when I was like 3 or 4 years old, my parents give me a take care of me to my grandparents, because my father is tailor master, and my family condition is not very good that time. So my father have an income like every day 10 to 12 rupees. So my father dream was at least my one son study at least class 10th. So he give me to take care of me to my grandparents. So when I'm growing there, then I found every small mistake, they beat me a lot, they give me a lot of work. So in the childhood time, I saw some movie. If you go to the city, so you become a rich man or you become a hero. So I thought maybe I can go some big city and maybe I become a hero or rich man. So that's why I took some money from my uncle pocket and I went the railway station, and I found their train going to New Delhi railway station. So I just get in, and I reached New Delhi railway station. So then first time I saw that big railway station and lots of crowd. So I just confused and I start crying. So some kids came to me and he asked me, and I tell him my whole detail, and we sit and we become a good friend. And 2-3 days I spend time with them, and I start working with them as a rag picker age of 11. So I run away my home in 1999, and I working in a New Delhi railway station as a rag picker, collecting water bottles, and we refill another cold water, and we sell in the general bogie at 5 rupees. So I found the platform life is very difficult, because sometimes police beat us, sometimes villain beat us, and sometimes any passenger lose anything, they also beat us. So I thought it's close to New Delhi railway station. There is place called Ajmeri Gate. So I went one restaurant there, and there is lots of rickshaw stand, and every stand have a small dhaba. So I went one dhaba and asked them to give me a job, and they give me a job as a dishwasher. So I start working there. One day, one volunteer came there, and he saw I am working there. So he asked me, "Why are you working here? Your age now, go to school." So he talked with my dhaba owner, and he sent me one organization called Salam Balak Trust based in Delhi. So Salam Balak Trust built by Meera Nair after her success movie Salam Bombay. So I went there, and after a few months, I get admission in class 6 because I already study in class 5th in my home. So I start to go regular school. So when I was in class 10th, I got very less percentage in my board exam. I got only 48 percentage. So my organization teacher told me I'm not very good in study. So change your track and do some vocational training. So they offer me do some TV mechanic course, some silai machine course, or maybe some cooking course. So I tell them I want to do photography. So the Salam Balak Trust give me a one Kodak camera. That time it's plastic camera. It's cost 499 rupees. I start click picture of my friend, and I charge them 5 rupees. That's how I start my photography. But age of after 18 years, we are not allowed to live in shelter home. So we have to get out from the shelter home. So age of 70, I get out from the shelter home. So my organization found for me job. So when Delhi-based photographer give me a job as a photo assistant, so I start working with him as a photo assistant, and I learned photography. In 2007, I did my first solo exhibition. So my that exhibition was very successful because that traveled 3 times London, South Africa, Vietnam. And 2008, I participate one worldwide photography competition, and they choose around the world 4 photographer. And so there are 2 from US, 1 from Hong Kong, and I'm from India. So they invite me New York for 6 months to do for reconstruction of the World Trade Center in New York. And so I was 6 months there, and then I came back and I continue work. And then I'm part of one award program. It's called International Award for Young People. So through that award program, they invite me to lunch with Prince Edward in Buckingham Palace. And after come back, I work. And 2013, National Geography Channel first time organized a photography reality show, and they choose 8 photographers. They take us Sri Lanka, and this is reality show. So every episode, one photographer get out from the show. So I was in top 4 in that TV show in National Geography. And the same year, my first book came called Home Street Home. And after that book, I got fellowship to study MIT Media Lab. And after MIT, I got invited so many places to give as a motivational talk. So I invited in Harvard University, Facebook headquarters, Google headquarters, Pentagon, White House, World Bank. So this is what I done to develop myself. But I done some photo project because after what I done, I thought community support me, and that's why I reach here. So I done some project, and through that project I support the community. So quick, I will share this picture and I will stop my presentation. So can you anyone tell, are you able to see my screen? So this is Januar Kessel, one of my German friend or 3 Indian friend. They built this skate park in rural India of Madhya Pradesh in India, and I start click this picture and quick passing. So because then I will finish. So after then I do some campaign for this kids. So then how can people know about this kids? So like this girl Sima saying our school should have fan, and I shared this picture in my social media, and then one of my friend donate fan for the school. And this guy is Gobinan. He's saying I want to become a village headman, and I shared this picture, and one of my trustee give a scholarship 2 lakh rupees to study in future. So this is Bundelkhand area, and there is lots of water issues. The water issue, and women have to walk 3 kilometers for drinking water. So the organization said there is one solution, but we required $12,000. So I said, this amount of money, I don't think people give us. So maybe what we can do, what I picture I click for the skate park, we ask for people to buy my artwork and we will do this water initiative. So we sold some of my artwork and we do this water initiative there. So we build this platform there, we do deep boring, we put this tank there, and now in that village is 24 hours water available. So this is like a one of my contribution through photography. And this kid have had this disease last 5 to 6 years and he never went hospital. So I click this picture, come back Delhi and share in my social media. This boy name is Sachin Adivasi, and if anyone want to support him. So one man called me and he said he want to support him. So I bring him Sachin Delhi, and his treatment done in AIMS hospital in Delhi, and Sachin is perfectly fine, and he went back home and he going everyday school. And last to last year, I clicked this picture near Jama Masjid, this family living in the street. And one of my friends saw this picture and they were asked me to, they want to support this family. So, but a small amount of money. So next day I went and I asked this family, one of my friend want to support you. So what kind of support you want? So they said, we originally from Rajasthan, Dholpur. So if you can open for us a small grocery shop there, so we will go back. So my friend gave me a 50,000 rupees and I spent 15,000. I spent total 65,000 and offered for them this grocery shop. So in 2016, I was in Forbes Asia 30 under 30 list, and in Vogue magazine 40 under 40 list, and I done this book for Delhi Meri Delhi, our ex Chief Minister Srimati Sheila Dikshit ji, what she done in last 15 years. So I'm just finishing here. My talk. So thank you so much.
Definitely wonderful hearing you, sir. Like, after hearing your story, even though you were young in your age, by maturity and your experience, that definitely you had more than what a young person could have. We will.
Thank
Yes. We'll get back to you, sir. We have another panelist over here, and we'll have join the conversation with all three of you after Miss Taanya Kathpal, our next speaker, speaks. This dynamic personality that I just got to know through after by reading her. She's our next speaker, a woman entrepreneur, founder of Eat My News. She started. Like, this dynamic personality has transformed from a news reading, like a person who's passionate enough to read news, to finding a community-driven platform. And this startup of hers hosts various thought leaders and thinkers interviews on Eat My News. YouTube's channel, and this series, and she also hosts a series called Talk with Tanya. So I invite her next to share her story and let us know, like, at such a young age, how did she start this venture of hers and also make it this successful. Over to you.
Okay. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here with all of you. I don't want to get into a monologue or just keep on talking about myself. So I really prefer if whoever's watching this on YouTube, I'm reading. If you can start commenting and typing out whatever your questions are for me, I'd like to simultaneously answer them and, of course, go about telling you my story. So if you all can hear me and are there with me, just type a yes on the comment section, please. Waiting, guys. You all can just write a yes on the comment section if you're hearing me.
I have received the first response.
Great. Hi, Praveen. To talk about my story, I was Really young. Okay, great. Hi, Nigashini. Hi, Sana. Hi, Sandeep. Hi, Nitin. And hi, Devraj. Please feel free to ask me anything that you'd like to ask me about. Okay. Great. So I started my journey back in college. Not gonna talk much about what is it that I do now because I feel that there's always a backstory to everything, and I feel it's very important for me to set some context for you because most of the people just come in and talk about their successes and their achievements and what is it that they've accomplished in their life, but seldom do they really talk about what is it that led to it. So about a couple of years ago, I was in college. I when I graduated, stayed out of passed out straight out of school and I entered college. I was very clueless. Didn't know what is it that I really wanted to do with my life. I was a very normal girl who just wanted to explore her college life and just derive the best of it, have fun, and really enjoy my time. But that was where I felt that some kind of a transformation began for me because there's always an inception point for everything. So, in those early years of college, I started doing a lot of internships. I started really exploring and learning a lot from my experiences, which sort of became the foundation for me to be able to even think that I could dream big. And let me correct you, at that time, I honestly had no idea about what is it that I really want to do with my life. But I was just bubbling with dreams. And by the time the college was about to get over, I had really done a lot of internships. I'd started reading news, I'd started reading books for the first time. And all I decided to do was be a part of public relations, and that's what I went in for uh, my masters, and I cleared that, and I went and studied. I studied in Xavier's in Mumbai, and then I came back to Delhi, got my first job, and that's where I thought that's all that life is. But when I actually started doing my job, I realized that through my college life, I had inculcated this habit of doing more and being more. And I realized that the power of experience is very important. And from very early on in my life, I had learned not to restrict myself or put myself in any kind of a box. So, which is why I decided to take risk and leave my job, put in whatever saving that I had to start my venture called Eat My News, which was going to be nothing more than a community at that time. And that's what I want to drive home to my first point that I really want to share with you all is that it's extremely important to take risks because anybody who's ever achieved anything in their life has never achieved it by sitting comfortably on the sofa of their house without taking some amount of risk. The risk could be capital risk, the risk could be losing a couple of years, the risk could be you foregoing certain relationships. It could be any kind of a risk, but yes, a certain kind of a risk I think is very important, especially if you really want to be an entrepreneur. So now I want to ask this audience, which one of you really wants to be an entrepreneur? If you want to be one, then write I. If you don't want to be one, just say no, I don't. Great, I'm reading. All right, awesome. So, whether it is that you want to be an entrepreneur or if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, that's fine. There's no glory and glam in just being an entrepreneur. Even if you want to do a corporate job or whatever it is, but you may have to take a certain kind of risk. That risk could involve you relocating to another city to be able to get your dream job. It could be any kind of a risk. It's risks basically are things that really make you uncomfortable. So if you're only in your life willing to be comfortable, then I don't believe that that is the way to success, at least in my experience. And yeah, another thing that really helped me in my formative years of starting, it's been almost 5 years that I've been a part of Eat My News now. And within these 5 years, one thing that I've really done for myself is that I have self taught myself a lot of concepts, a lot of things. I've spent a lot of time thinking and learning. I often call it sort of like an MBA that I did on my own. So it was a home MBA that I did for myself, and I feel the best form of learning comes from execution. I don't believe in MBA programs, I don't believe in master's programs. It's a very personal opinion that I have. Of course, some master's programs where you specialize in a particular skill and everything's great, but I don't believe in generic management programs, because I feel that if you've not done any work, you have nothing to correlate it to, and it only becomes a matter of theory for you. Yes, it may land you a better job and blah blah, but I really don't think that any form of true learning really comes from inculcating that knowledge. So for me, I had that privilege and advantage of being able to execute everything that I was learning on the sides for Eat My News. And I heard a lot of people, I read a lot, I read lots of news, I gathered lots of information, and that's when I began to believe in the fact that power of messages is very important. One message, one learning, one teaching, just one thing can really, really change your life forever. And fortunately, I've had the privilege to read from the best minds of the world, and yeah, it's come from me giving myself all of that experience as well as exposure. So I'd say that power of learning, knowledge, and messages is something that's extremely important. And so when I started Read My News, it was something else. I wanted to start it as an app, but I drastically failed. But then I took some time, and I took that time to be able to learn and pivot. It evolved into being a community, and a community of people from more than 15 countries across the world. If I tell you that almost more than 10,000 people have applied to be a part of Eat My News and have want to be the members of this community. I have worked with over 5,000 people who have actively worked in Eat My News. Uh, we did lots of events for them. We've done lots of transformative programs for them through Youth Leadership Conference and Youth Leadership Certification. And very recently, about a year ago, I launched the website for Eat My News. I'd love it if all of you all can go and check it out. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to type it out in the comment section. So whenever you have a chance, you can definitely have a look at it. We cover fantastic stories of people. So the fact that you're here in this event and you're listening to people tells me volumes about the fact that you all want to really learn and grow in life. And that's what the website caters to. It tells you about the greatest stories, the best stories of people who have an experience in their life and would love to share it with everybody. So go check out the website. We've covered lots of celebrities, entrepreneurs. I'm pretty sure that all of you will find some story there that you're definitely going to resonate with and are going to enjoy reading. So, along these 5 years, I could have done my work in silos, but I didn't do that. I made sure that I always connect with people because I feel network is net worth. I feel that it's extremely important to talk about what you do And that's what led me to build Eat My News into this brand which so many people know about, not just in India but globally. And this was only possible if I hadn't showcased the work, whether it was me talking about the testimonials of people on YouTube, whether it was me building my personal brand on my social media, whether it was me being a part of forums like these. I've spoken at more than 50 very, very prestigious colleges across India. I've had the privilege of giving 3 TEDx talks. I recently started my own talk show called Talk with Tanya with great minds, that's live on the YouTube channel. Whether it's me sharing my passion for politics and knowledge on YouTube. So social media is a very, very powerful tool, and I feel all of us must use it really well. So whatever it is that you really want to do, I suggest you read up and learn about how is it that you build your own personal brand. Because if you're not going to present and showcase, nobody would want to hire you, nobody would want to give you a higher salary or a promotion. For anything in life, you need to build your personal brand, for which presenting your work and talking about your work is extremely important. I think gone are those days when you can really work in silos. Utilize the power of social media, utilize the power of your network, and make sure that you really make the best out of it. And yeah, this is what I really want to share from my journey and my story. Hope this gave you some insights into things that I've really learned along the way. And I still have a long way to go, but nonetheless, um, yeah, I continue to learn and keep myself hustling no matter what. And yeah, great. I'd love to connect with all of you all beyond this also on my social media. So feel free to reach me on Instagram or LinkedIn at any time. You can DM me. I'd be happy to answer your questions there also, besides this event. Thank you so much.
Wonderful hearing you out, ma'am. Especially you were saying that just sitting down and waiting for your turn, or like how you said, how you would not have a chance of starting off the way you wanted, but still getting an impact on it, especially made a difference. So let me just bring along all the other two panelists over here, and maybe you can have a
Thank
small chat
you,
over
Sana.
here.
Sorry, I was just replying to a comment on YouTube. Thank you, Sana.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I just bring in the remaining two panelists for the evening so that we can have a small chat. So we have all the three people we've invited for today. So just to kickstart the discussion. Like we've always heard this term called "it's never too late to start." But then over here, right here, we have y'all who have proven that it's never too young to start. So don't you think that this is just turning out to be like I'm still young, I have my days left, I have some years, I'm still 22, I'll play around 5 years, I'll still be 27, I'll still be young, I can still kickstart. That's an attitude. But then there is another like there's another place where there are people like just saying like I need to do something. I'm I have to start. So what do you think about this notion saying it's never too old to start? Why can't people say also it's never too young to start? Like, let's start with Tanya, ma'am. This point the clockwise.
Great. Yeah. So it's never too young to start. It's never too old to start. Yes, it's never too old to start. Firstly, I feel that get this pressure off your head that you have to start something in your 20s. It's completely okay. I feel it's very each to its own. Whether you wanna, there are people who are starting something at 12 also now. There are people who are brilliant YouTubers on when they're 5 years old also, and some people achieve success when they're 30, some get it at 40, some get it at 80. So there's really no age to success. And again, success I feel is also a very, very subjective term. So So, needless to say that start whenever you want to. It needs to be done in a very organic fashion. One story can't be something relevant to everybody. All three of us, perhaps here, most definitely have very different backstories, different backgrounds, different uh, realities in our lives, and which is why everybody starts at a different point in their life. But yeah, I think what 20s really does for you is that, and the advantage of doing something in your early age is that your risk appetite is usually higher because most people have not really started their strategies around that time. Plus, you're more carefree. You don't have so many pressures. So I think that's why it becomes a very ideal time to really start, hustle it out, and even if you worst case fail, there's not too much that you feel you're gonna lose. So post 30 or post being settled in a job for about 5 years or so, then you most people take a back seat and become very comfortable, and they get into the habit of being part of the corporate culture. And I feel somewhere it does uh, kill the entrepreneurial spirit in some people. Some people definitely thrive out of it and take a very different approach. That is, they work for a couple of years, learn the skills on the job, which eliminates their chances of failure more because you have some skills to back you up to be able to start. So I don't think there is any correct approach to this. There cannot be very one size fits all or a generic piece of advice that I could give to everybody. It's going to be very different and very contextual based on every individual. But to end what I'm saying, I'd just like to say that starting up is a beautiful experience. It's full of learning. It's a very, very powerful experience, no matter at what age. Whether you fail, whether you succeed, it doesn't matter, but it teaches you a lot in life.
So we would like to hear from you, Sir Vicky Royce.
I think तानिया ने सबको बिल्कुल करेक्ट बताया, तो आई डोंट थिंक उसके अलावा और मैं कुछ नया एडवाइस दे सकता हूँ. So I think I go with Tanya, whatever she said.
And you, sir, Zeeshan. Are you able to
Yeah,
hear
no,
me?
I absolutely echo Tanya too. I think everybody is on their own life cycle, right? So, yes, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, sir, we can.
Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. You are audible.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you are audible. I think
Yeah.
there might be a small
Yeah,
lag in
so
your.
I mean, Tanya's absolutely right. Everybody's on their own. Everybody's on their own life cycle, So it's there is a lag. Anyway, I'm going to keep talking. So Tanya is absolutely right. More important is that one or they start late. Ray Kroc, for instance, who built the McDonald's franchise into what it is today, started with McDonald's when he was in his 50s. But before he got into McDonald's, he had a long string of business failures. And he had started working on them since he was in his 20s as well. So that's how it works. For some people, it takes the fourth attempt, it takes the fifth attempt, it takes the sixth attempt. For me, when I wrote my book, it took me 3 attempts to get this book right. So, everybody's on their own sort of life cycle, but you've just got to keep going with it.
Really nice that all three of y'all are in the same page. It's wonderful to see that. But then through the discussion, we did realize that two of y'all were saying that social media is the tool to enter into the domain, like as Mr. Zeeshan and as you said. So what do you think? Like how? Like do you really think so? Like instead of a social profile, a social media profile is what is required right now, and handling it in the right way will actually handle your life also in the right way. If not for an entrepreneur, for anybody in that matter. Like maybe we can go with anyone of you who would like to answer that first. And I think even Vicky Royce as photography, everything in now requires a social media to take it about.
Yeah, Tanya was on mute, so I think I'll take this question. This was very interesting for me to think about because you can't build a profile on social media without really having anything to show for it in the real world. After all, even what you take to the internet has to, in my case, for instance, I was talking earlier about how you can get started as a writer on policy and political issues. You can't just live in the virtual world in order to do that. You need to go out, you need to look at what's happening on the street, you need to look at what's happening around the world. And on the basis of that, you've got to write. And I think social media, at the end of the day, is just a channel to connect people across from one part of the real world to another part of the real world. It's not an alternative universe of its own. So I think you can't build a social media profile without really having anything to show for in terms of work in the real world, in terms of connecting with the real world. That is my personal view. And at the same time, I think in today's context, without making use of the internet and without making use of social media, you cannot increase and expand your own reach and influence and your own audience and the impact that you're able to have.
Would anybody else like to add on?
Anirudh, can I speak in Hindi?
सर बिल्कुल.
So basically मैं थोड़ा सा सोशल मीडिया वाले कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बिल्कुल 100% बिलीव नहीं करता हूँ. लाइक आपके काम चलाने के लिए समटाइम वो इम्पोर्टेंट रोल निभाता है, बट देयर इज उसकी अपनी लिमिटेशन है. जैसे एक टाइम ऑरकुट था, अब ऑरकुट नहीं है, ठीक है. सो आपके अगर जितने भी फॉलोवर है वो 1 सेकंड में खत्म हो जाएंगे, ठीक है. जैसे इंस्टा फेसबुक था, अब लोग फेसबुक से इंस्टा पे आ रहे, तो फेसबुक पे लोगों का जाना थोड़ा सा कम हो गया. फिर उसका कोई अल्टरनेटिव आएगा, तो लाइक जैसे बहुत टाइम लोग को लगता है कि इतने सारे फॉलोवर है और इतने सारे वो है, बट वो 1 सेकंड में खत्म हो जाएगा जब कोई अल्टरनेटिव दूसरा आ जाएगा. तो इस वजह से मुझे लगता है कि जिस टाइम पे उसका रोल है उसको साथ में यूज करते जाओ, बट अपने कैपेबिलिटी को उससे ज्यादा स्ट्रॉन्ग रखो, ताकि कल दिन अगर वो सोशल मीडिया नहीं भी रहे, आप हमेशा रहो. यस.
हाँ सर. So बिल्कुल.
Great. Something I heard, I think both of them made sense in their own ways and context. And I think what Vicky also said is very true. You should be depend on followers. I think that's what he meant. That don't depend on, let's say TikTok just vanished and a lot of people overnight lost their following. So yes, this is a good thing for bloggers and stuff, that you shouldn't really rely on social media. But when I spoke about social media, I meant it in a very different context. I meant it in a way that social media is also LinkedIn. Okay, a platform may not be there any longer, but if I do a Google search, okay, let's say Anirudh, if I type your name on Google, I'll get some hits. And a recently conducted study said that 70% of employers are going to stalk you on social media before they hire you. So imagine, social media footprint is extremely important, specifically if you're aiming for companies and stuff, your HR people. What do we do? I mean, forget jobs. What do you do when you have to go for a date? Where do you look up the person? You go Google.
Definitely. In
Stalk
search in
their
all
Instagram.
medias possible.
You stalk their Instagram, you stalk their Facebook, and that's how you make a decision whether you want to go for that date or not. So similarly, for an employer, they have to hire. If you're somebody who's, let's say, aspiring to be, somebody who wants to work in marketing, right? Now, if you want to work in marketing, and if and then imagine if they look up your LinkedIn and they see that you're daily sharing posts about about marketing and new insights about marketing. If they go to your Instagram and they see that you're following marketeers and you're also posting some reels and stuff talking about different marketing trends and stuff, imagine there's another person. Who would they want to hire? They may want to hire you because they see that this person is really passionate about marketing. That tells something to an employer, right? similarly, it's for all fields and everything. So social media is not just a tool of, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying go build 100K followers, but even if you have good 500 engaged followers who believe in the brand you, even if the 30 friends of yours believe in the power of your work and whatever it is that you're doing, I feel that way in today's day and age, we can no longer ignore the power of social media. That's my opinion.
A common theme which we've faced here is that it's really necessary to make sure that you are in some kind of social media just to stay connected, but then your work should speak. But for that, since we already spoke about when to start, how to start, and all that, to do all this every day when you wake up, you need. I first maybe feel that you need some driving force to tell you that go back, go do this today. You have to do this so that you stay in the field or you stay there tomorrow to do this today. So, what do you think, if I may ask, like, what is your driving force, or what do you think about this opinion of mine? Would
Oh, was that question to me?
no, it was just a general question
To
in
the
the
panel. Okay,
forum. Yeah.
I'll take it. So I mean, this is obviously difficult because when everything is going swimmingly and everything is succeeding, then you don't need a real driving force. The success itself drives you. But when you're not getting published, say for instance, for a long period of time, or your writing is not being read and shared very widely for a long period of time, then I think you've got to start seeing intrinsic meaning and taking intrinsic pleasure in doing what you're doing. So, for me, writing is that thing for me. For some people it might be sketching, for some people it might be singing, for some people it might be acting, for some people it might be curating news on the internet. For people like Vicky, it could be taking photographs. So for each person, I think at the end of the day, you've got to pick the passion that you've got to think back and look at whether you want to do this, regardless of whether you're finding success or not. And if you find that thing that is able to drive you simply for its intrinsic value, not for the validation it brings you, or for the success that it's likely to bring you, or for any results that it's likely to bring you, then that is the thing that you should be doing. And when you look at sports persons, for instance, this is the way that they drive themselves. Somebody like Roger Federer, has gone a fair amount of time in the early part of his career where he was not winning a lot of Grand Slam matches. I think he took a year off as well because he had some anger management issues. Would you believe that Roger Federer once had anger management issues? But what kept Roger Federer going was just that he liked playing tennis. And at one point in time, I think he said that when he's playing tennis, he doesn't even look at the scoreboard because it doesn't matter to him. It doesn't matter whether he's winning the match. It doesn't matter whether he's losing the match. What he says matters to him is that he plays that rally out well. He serves the ball well. He returns the winner well. He plays the volley properly. Those are the things that he said keeps him going, and it's the process, therefore, and the journey, therefore, that appeals to him. I think that if we can all find that equivalent for us, what we really enjoy doing passionately, then that in itself is sufficient to keep us going. I don't think that we really need to look at the results.
Very truly said, sir. So, what you said was just get up, take every step, and make sure that step you take at that time is the perfect in its own way. So let's just quickly jump on to the questions we have from the audience. We have Sheila's Greats saying that how do we start a startup if there is no good financial background? And I really think that all of you over here can answer this in the best way.
Okay, I'd just like to say that if you don't have a strong financial background, it doesn't matter. Start small. You don't have to start a gigantic company on day one. Start small. Depends on whatever it is that you want to do. There's so many things that you can do with minimal investment as well. And even if you don't want to, do that, I mean, I started my news as a Facebook page. what could that be? I mean, imagine how. And this was when I was just working in my job. So simultaneously, I was actually just running a Facebook page. So again, it depends because mine is a media company and I got a lot of popularity through there. But whatever it is that you want to do, start small. Even if you have a business where you need to serve customers, get your first customer, get your first two customers. If you want to do a service, get your three, four, five customers, and service them really, really well on the sides, even when you're doing your job. So make it your side hustle. If there is certain kind of a product that you want to build, of course that'll require some investment, but you don't have to have gigantic investment, right? That's why they say that there's something known as a minimum viable product, MVP, which is the first prototype of whatever it is that you want to launch. So again, that can also be made with extremely minimal investment. Now again, depends on what is it that you really want to do, and there are ways to do it. I think no money is no. There's something known as growth hacks. There's a jugaad, as they say in India. There's a jugaad for doing everything. If you can't run ads, do organic content. Everybody can do content. Content is a very powerful medium. So there are a gazillion ways to be able to get things done, provided that you're really, really passionate about it. Otherwise, you'll just keep giving yourself excuses. Not having money, enough money, can also be a big excuse. A lot of people have done it. They've started small, they've achieved it, and eventually, when they're metal, they've also got funding. So it's not an impossible task. Every story, a lot of people have started from extremely humble backgrounds. So anybody can do it.
Anybody else क्या हीरो सर आप कुछ बोलना चाहते हैं?
नहीं, इस पे मुझे कुछ आइडिया है नहीं.
So we'll quickly move to the next question by
I think we
Sandeep Leo.
I think we have a question for Amit here. I think somebody's asked him that will we have scope in field of photography without any
Yes,
professional courses and just by self-learning?
yes, that's the question we have.
So we'll have. So I'm sure the every field there is scope, but study बहुत जरूरी है. बिना पढ़ के आप थोड़े टाइम तक सरवाइव कर सकते हो. उसमें कुछ लोग लकी होते हैं जो 100% कर लेते हैं, बट सभी कोई लकी नहीं होते हैं. तो आपके पास नॉलेज रहेगा तो वो हमेशा आपको काम ही आएगा. कि अगर आप फोटोग्राफी नहीं भी कर रहे हो तो मे बी यू टीच समवेयर, आप टीचर बन सकते हो. तो आपके पास डबल ऑप्शन हमेशा रहेगा. बट यस, स्टडी जरूरी है. और बिना स्टडी के आप लंबे रेस के घोड़ा थोड़े से लकी अगर नहीं रहे तो थोड़ा डिफिकल्टीज आती है फिर.
So
और टाइम
we'll
लगता है,
go.
होता है क्योंकि आप अगर सॉरी
नहीं, मैंने आपको सॉरी गलती से अमित बुला दिया था. विकी, आई एम वेरी सॉरी.
नहीं, इट्स ओके. सो और फोटोग्राफी हमेशा ऐसा नहीं होता है कि आपने कैमरा खरीदा और आपको उससे अगर हैंडल करना आ गया तो आप फोटोग्राफर बन गए. तो हर चीज के लिए एक टाइम लगता है. कि जैसे आप मान लीजिए इंजीनियरिंग की पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं तो आपको 3-3.5 साल पढ़ाई खत्म करने में लगता है. फिर इंटर्नशिप करते हैं, फिर आपकी कैरियर स्टार्ट होती है. तो उसी तरह फोटोग्राफी में आपको उतना टाइम देना पड़ेगा. तब जाकर के आप बेसिक से लेके हर एक चीज एक कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल के साथ आप काम कर पाओगे.
Okay, sir. Thank you. And the next question is from Bharti Shanmugavela. So, is it good to jump into entrepreneurship at an early age, life like 20s or 30s, or gathering experience, learning, and starting an entrepreneurship at 50s will work? Maybe she means going to a work, then you are working in a few company, knowing the nuances, and then starting on your own, taking the risk later. Or I think this would echo the answers you all gave of when to start at the beginning of the discussion.
Yeah, I don't consider myself an entrepreneur, so it would be out of place for me to answer this. Tanya is probably best fit.
Okay. Yeah. So I just like to say that whether you want to, I can't say there's no age, right? Again, very, very contextual. If you can tell me what you want to do, I'll be able to be more specific about it, right? We all know how the different people, different things work for different people. But if you think that you have the metal to hustle it out, to if you're a self learner, if you are passionate and curious, if you are hungry for knowledge, if you have the strength to make mistakes and get over it, if you have the time and energy to really invest and be in love with your startup, then do it in your 20s. Because then you can always teach yourself. I always say Google's the best. I've taught myself most of the things from Google. So if you can do that, then do it in your 20s. But if you think that, no, I just want to instantly get success, and it takes time. Another thing that I want to add, there's nobody who's an overnight success. Anybody who's a big success has at least 10 years of backstory. So if you're willing to give in those 10 years of your life to really stick it out, then do it. If you think that you want more confidence, there's no harm in learning from corporate stalwarts, people who are senior, who are more experienced. Learning. See, I feel sometimes doing a job first and then starting up means that you learn at the cost of somebody else. So the company literally is paying you and gives you all the resources to make mistakes and learn at the cost of somebody else. So that's another way of looking at it. There's no harm in first getting some experience learning and then starting. Is it's always the best way, and always I feel the best way is to start everything as a side hustle. If it does well, then move into it full time.
We'll now move to the next question by Sana. So she's saying that I would like to know from Zeeshan sir's opinion on youth's engagement in current politics. Are they misinformed and could be easily influenced through social media, or are they learning more through the same?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, social media can, on the one hand, give people like ourselves the opportunity to get our voice heard without having to go through editors who don't want to publish our work early on. But at the same time, social media is also a platform for misinformation and disinformation. And we've seen that in the last few years, most dramatically in the United States with the election of 2020, when Donald Trump parroted a bunch of fake claims about stolen elections and fake votes, and riled up a crowd enough to go and attack the U.S. Capitol. So it's a double-edged sword. What was very interesting to me about that U.S. Capitol Hill insurrection is that a lot of the people who did that were actually not young people. They were all pretty middle-aged folks who were coming out of Middle America, working class people who were probably in their 40s and 50s. And that, by the way, is Donald Trump's core base. Whereas the young crowd is typically seen around the world as being somewhat more liberal and progressive. Even in India, if you look at the vote share of Hindu nationalist politics, let me put it that way, it's higher as you go further and further up the demographic pyramid. In other words, the older a voter is, the more likely they are to vote for Hindu nationalist politics. And the younger a voter is, the more liberal they tend to be. So this is something that has been researched through surveys and is out there, which is very interesting to me. So it seems to me that in some ways it's actually middle-aged people who are more vulnerable and susceptible to misinformation on social media than the young. And why that is, and whether that really is as true as it's made out to be, are all questions to be asked. But the little evidence that we've seen in the last few years seems to suggest that the youth are somewhat less susceptible to social media misinformation than the middle-aged.
Nice of you. And the next question also, I think, is based on entrepreneurship, and all of the viewers over here are very interested in entrepreneurship. We have a question from Rishabh Preston saying, what is the biggest mistake that a person new to a startup or business in general can make? So,
Okay. I say that the biggest mistake is not being aware of what your business model is, and being having utmost clarity about what is it that you're doing and how is it that you're going to monetize it. So not having a clear cut business model is, I feel, one of the biggest mistakes that one can make. You need to have some sense of foresight or direction, and then of course execute it to the best of your abilities.
So really nice. So I see no more comments, and I see that there are we come to the end of the question and answer session. And if there's anything else that any of you all would like to say, we can go to that in general.
Great. I just want to leave you all on this thought that um it's okay to be where you are, and it's okay to just enjoy the process, and don't take any kind of pressures on yourself in life. Life's too long. uh, Follow your own trajectory, follow your own life. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. It doesn't matter. As I say, everybody is different, everybody is unique, everybody has their own life story, and everybody is an achiever in their own sense. It doesn't matter. There's no end to comparing yourself to people, and I think it's the biggest mistake anybody can ever make. Just be on the trajectory. Always improve yourself. Keep learning new things, and just don't give up. Okay? Don't give up on anything. Have dreams and aspirations. Very important. I feel if young India today has enough people who are dreaming and trying to achieve their dreams, I feel we're going to be, you know, in a space where the country is going to thrive, I think, multiple times. So just don't restrict yourself, have dreams and go for it. Thank you so much for having me here.
Anybody else?
I'm just going to echo Tanya's thoughts because they're absolutely well put and very well articulated. I think that a country as young as India, if and I keep bringing this up because India really is one of the youngest countries in the world, and therefore extremely consequential for the rest of the world as well. An enormous proportion of the world economy is going to be coming from the Indian workforce in the years ahead. So if we swim, then the rest of the world will swim. If we sink, we're going to take the rest of the world down with us. That's just the way it is. And so, therefore, India's development today is actually an international concern. It's a global concern. It's not an internal matter that is specific to India or unique to India. And with that, I think that all that we've got to really think about is to try and build an economy and a society where everybody is able to pursue whatever they're really good at and what they're passionate about. If everybody is able to follow what they're passionate about and what they've got their aptitude in, whether that's in the engineering field or whether that's in medicine or in journalism or in photography or in social media content creation or in marketing and sales or in rocket science or whatever else it is, then I think that India as a whole will progress because people who follow their ambitions and their passions rather, and people who follow what they're good at and what they have an aptitude for quite naturally are bound to at some point in time find some success in their lives. And with that, all the very best. And thank you so much for having me on this wonderful panel. And have a very good evening. Thank you.
And anything else from you, sir?
सो मेरा ये कहना है कि आपके लाइफ में जो भी सुख दर्द है, जब भी आप अपने काम को स्टॉप मत कीजिए और अपने आप से चीट मत कीजिए, क्योंकि एंड ऑफ द डे जो आपको लाइफ में आगे लेके जाएगा वो आपका काम आपको आगे लेकर के जाएगा. तो बी ऑनेस्ट विथ योर वर्क. थैंक यू.
That's really nice. So I think we come to an end of this Young Disruptor Series 1 session now. And before we finish, from our end, it's a yearly custom that we always give you all a tailor-made poem as a memento from our side. So we have one for each of you all, and I will start one by one. To Miss Taanya Kathpal. She continues to read not just news or books, but the minds of people and what they want. She continues to tell not just the stories are saying, but messages that impact the mass. She continues to earn not just money or fame, but a respectful and refreshing name. And we truly wish that you continue to win awards and hearts from the students of Kumuruguru. And this is written by Priyadarshini. Next,
Thank you so much. This is very, very warm and very touching. Thank you so much. Means a lot.
and next to Mr. Vicky Roy. So, who said lens is just for capturing moments? Look at him using it to show the world the power of a single thought, to tell society the story of living in the streets, to pave the way into the Forbes 30 under 30, to empower people through art, to document the crisis of Earth with his heart in his sleeves and hope in his mind. Is all set to change things one at a time. This is written by Ms. Lakshmi.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you so much. It's very interesting.
And finally, to Mr. Mohamed, what to write for a man whose writing is seen everywhere? Where to find words for the man who had traveled the world? Physically and intellectually, how to describe the man who has international affairs at the back of his hand? What could we possibly give to you that you already don't have, other than our adoration, appreciation, and affection? By Nakshatra and all the students from Kumarigaru
Thank you,
Institution.
Nakshatra. That's really touching. And I must say that, as somebody who writes, my poetry is terrible. I only know prose. And so anybody who's able to make rhyming sentences on anything, my hats off to you guys. Thank you so much.
It was wonderful having every one of you all, especially inspiring to see that at such a young age, you all have achieved such great heights, and all of us over here, a student-led conclave, it inspires us more to do more in life. So with this, we come to the end of this session, and in this note, I would also like to thank our sponsors, TVS and Servo Motors, our social media partners, Eat My News, Humans of Coimbatore, Intech Dispatch, and we also thank our broadcast team and tech support, the Viscom Department of Class. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Have a good evening. Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm leaving home for the coastline, someplace under the sun. I feel my heart for the first. I'm leaving.